Good morning. Richard McKinney here, Atlantic Shores Realty Expertise. Today, I want to talk about the difference between selling real estate and selling other products or services. So, a lot of people get into real estate with a preconceived notion that this is an easy business, number one. And number two, that it's just like any other sales. And what they soon realize is that it's not like any other sales. And so there are three main reasons um, that real estate is not like other sales professions. And I wanted to talk about those with you today. And hopefully it can help you to become a better real estate salesperson. So let's dive right into it. The first reason that real estate is different than some other sales industries is because there's a high level of trust needed between the prospect or the customer and the salesperson. And let's talk about why. Why is that trust very important in this transaction? Well, the main reason that it's important is because in most cases, this is the largest transaction that customer is ever going to make by far. So if someone's purchasing a home, for instance, and that home is two, three, four, $500,000, $600,000 or more, then they're really going to put a high level of trust in the person that they're using. Hence, that customer, in order for them to make a comfortable buying decision, they're going to need to have a special relationship. And they should. They should. So let's give an example let's use the car business, for example. If you were going to buy a car, chances are you don't really need to have a lot of trust in the salesperson. You're going to look at cars. You might or may not have an idea of what type of car you want. And you're surely probably not going to call a dealership and ask for a specific salesperson. When you get there, the salesperson is going to take you around the lot, show you a bunch of different cars, and you may or may not even like the person that you're dealing with. But because there is not a lot of emotion in it, because you're expecting a certain level of service from the car purchase, that you would probably go ahead and move through that process with that person anyway. You'll probably do it. Now, let's compare that to real estate, where you are purchasing a very large investment that takes a lot of private financial information from you, and that you have to come up with and not necessarily give to your agent, but you have to share some of that. You have to feel comfortable talking with them about it, and you have to be in that relationship from the showing process to the offer process to the closing process, sometimes for 30, 45, even 60 days, and maybe even longer in some cases, to close. So the relationship is a much longer period, especially when you compare it to purchasing a car, where a couple hours you're in and out. So if you're going to purchase a home and you're going to look for, especially for a specific type of property, such as waterfront, a certain condo community, or specific neighborhood, you're going to want an agent with an expertise in that and you're going to need to trust them. So trust is number one reason that real estate sales are much harder business to break into. You're going to have trust with your customers. Number two reason that this business is much harder to break into is because there's a vast amount of knowledge that you have to have and to portray that to the prospect or the customer. Let me give you an example. Not only do you have to know single family homes, but for the most part, you need to know the water, if there's waterfront behind it, information on the homeowners association, if any, property taxes, insurance. You have to have basic knowledge of the construction of the property and possible defects that could arise. You have to have good relationships with a bunch of different vendors. Your customer is going to rely on you for information on roofers, painters, handymen, air conditioning companies, home inspectors. You're going to have to answer questions on mortgages, possible tax assessments in the future, guidelines on how you can and can't uh, uh, make changes to your property in some cases, especially if it's in a homeowners association. In addition, and that's just for a single family home, and there's hundreds of more things that could come up. But then when you start talking about vacant land, especially if it's uh, agricultural land or commercial, how about condos, townhomes, riparian rights? There's just a lot of things in this industry that you need to know. You don't have to know all of it, but you need a very strong working knowledge of it. And your buyer is going to have questions. So if you're not conveying that, if that experience that you have is not coming through with the buyer, then the buyer is going to, they're going to have some cold feet. You might have problems in that transaction. The buyer might have some more likelihood of buyer's remorse. So number one is trust. And then number two is experience. The number three thing that sets the business of real estate sales apart from other sales is that it's highly emotional. Yeah, it's very emotional. And it should be emotional because, especially on the residential side, buyers are purchasing a home for their family in most cases. And even if they're not purchasing it, even if they don't have a family, it's where they're going to lay their head and spend a majority of their time. That emotional process makes you means that you need to be able to have empathy and a really caring outlook on that customer's wants and needs and their desires. At the same time, you need to guide them in a way that's realistic. So it can be a double-edged sword. It can be a double-edged sword, walking that line of the emotional roller coaster that a buyer goes through, and keeping them on a path to purchase a property. These things make real estate much more difficult to sell. And as an agent, it's important that you understand in the very beginning, building trust, having a strong product knowledge, and being able to uh, understand the emotions that a customer has regarding buying or selling. These things take a while to develop. They just don't happen overnight. You just don't get this type of knowledge overnight, and it's very difficult to teach it. I talk to a lot of agents and they say, "Well, this office has all kinds of training and in classroom study on to help me become a better agent." I can tell you right now, you're not going to get classroom study on how to handle buyers' emotions. You're not going to get that. They don't have it. No one has it. Heck, I don't even have it. I can talk about it once you're in the business, but we can't sit and have a classroom study on buyers' emotions and reasons why they have buyer's remorse. The best thing you can do is work through the experiences, because everyone's different. Everybody has a different level of emotion. The other training is the other thing that you can't get training on is how to build trust. That's very difficult to train on. And then as far as knowing the business, there's no classroom that's going to sit there and tell you the HOA fees of every single community in your area. That's just going to come from experience and being out there in the business. So what I tell agents is you're going to need to learn on the job. And that learning process will come faster if you are busy. If you're busy out showing property, if you're sitting at home or sitting in an office and doing classroom studies without working with buyers and sellers, then it's going to take you a long time to get the knowledge that you need to really be successful. So where do you start then? How do you get these three things? How do you become an expert in the business? The way that I believe that agents should the fastest way that agents can get this type of experience is to surround yourself with people who are very busy and who are doing this business on a high level, a very high level. If you are working for someone that doesn't have a lot of business and isn't doing a lot of business, then you're going to be in a position of not doing a lot of business yourself. I mean, if you have a fish and he's in a tank this big, how big can that fish grow? He can only grow as big as a tank. Same thing with you. You're only going to grow as big as the people that you surround yourself with. And if you're going into an environment or an office or a team lead or a broker or a sales manager that is providing low-level training, that doesn't have very many sales under their belt themselves, that is there just to have an agent number count, then you're in a tank that's this big. And that's as big as you're going to get until something changes. And you realize, hey, I am capable of much more than this. And my goals are much bigger than this. And that's when you realize that, you can grow. The unfortunate thing is a lot of people get into this business, they really don't exactly, take into consideration who they're working with, the real training that they need, and how hard it is to come up with a steady group of potential buyers and sellers. So again, it's Richard McKinney. I hope you found this information useful. If I can ever answer any questions for you at any time, please give me a call, 772-370-8631. And I hope you guys have a fantastic day. See you next time.